We're back at it. I don't know if you can hear a little drip, drop, drip, but let me just say that obviously there's a lot more that's happening than just a downpipe again. Well, so let's just say this. I tried to pass emissions. What does it say successful? I had to give you O2 sensors, which haven't been implemented yet. And then on top of that, let me just show you what else is happening. Again, I love this car. Most of it is preventative maintenance, and I'm very happy that I'm doing preventative maintenance. That way this car does not overheat and heat soak. Because sometimes I do like to pull in this car a little bit, and it's not meant to really do that all the time. So you get a little thing called heat soak, and then that's really what things start to go a little bit south. And since the things that I'm doing to this car, it's gonna get a little hot, a little toasty. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is a fan shroud out, radiator about to be out, just for this simple little bracket here. Okay, so in all seriousness, the reason why I'm doing this is because the intercooler's been falling off. Most of you know that because one of the screws is stripped. It's not even actually the screw, it's the screw hole that's here.
I will have to say, an N55 intercooler setup is probably the dumbest way to put an intercooler and attach it to the chassis I've ever seen. These little plastic things are supposed to hold up a huge, heavy intercooler. So, I had to take out this entire process just to change one bracket. It's pretty bad.
So essentially what I'm doing is replacing that bracket. Well, the only way to get that bracket out is to remove everything in the front here. So you're talking air intake, you're talking coolant lines, you're talking the radiator, and let's hope to God it's not the AC condenser. All to get this big old bracket here. It's really stupid, but it has to be done. Otherwise this thing's gonna be hanging, and I don't want it to hang so far that it ends up breaking the other one. Just to walk you through some stuff here. So all these coolant lines are almost off. The biggest one down there I gotta get off. When you're doing this, make sure that you are understanding which coolant lines go where, because you can kind of guess as to where it goes, but at the same time it's like, you know, you pull all these things off, you want to make sure that you get it right. So with that being said as well, now let's turn this light back on. I'll show you the other side because it's basically the same. Now luckily and thankfully I haven't had to take this guy off. I just kind of unhooked it in a way and unscrewed it. Those are the AC lines. There's a little T20 screw that's in there that, yes, you do have to take out. Don't take any of these guys out like I did by accident, because then that will release it from this bracket here, which this video was never meant to even exist for a long time. But since the bracket somehow just got stripped, I'm doing it, and it is what it is.
So funny enough, this radiator looks like it comes out pretty simple because on camera I took it out within 5 to 10 seconds. Meanwhile, I had such a hard time getting the OEM one out, it took me 3 days. Although I didn't film the last parts of it, I just filmed this one. So if you're gonna do this, understand that this job is not as easy as either Keys Motorsports shows or anybody else shows. It is very, very difficult.
They'll be calling me.
Radiator's out, let's go. So, we're gonna get an upgraded one, which is cool because these cars love to heat soak. Not to say that my car's already heat soaking, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Got that. The problem is this bracket is such a nuisance that it's almost impossible to get out. So this is the AC condenser here, okay? It's a cool looking gadget until you have to get that bracket out.
And as you guys can see, it's a lot different of a process for me to do this than it was for Keys again or anybody else, because I had to take out everything. So you're talking the intercooler and basically the entire cooling system of the N55 platform. It absolutely was super terrible. So my key thing was to make sure that everything went back exactly how it was. Although what you're about to see is that this new radiator made everything that much harder to get back in.
Look at what I have to fucking deal with. There's no shot I'm getting this out without that. And I'm sorry the screen looks kind of like it's hazing and stuff, but this is just mad awful. Well, if you guys ever want to see what an N55 transcooler looks like, this is what it looks like. It's pretty cool. Like, I really am half tempted to take off the intercooler, but I don't think I'm gonna have to. As you guys can see, like, it's like this, right? And it is loose, but it's not to the point where I can really get it.
So as I was mentioning earlier in the video, I had to take out the entire cooling system for the N55. Biggest thing for me was that I was hoping in this process that I wouldn't have to take out the intercooler. Yet, this is what is about to happen.
Thankfully, I think I'm not gonna have to mess with the AC condenser. Even though it is like that. It is pretty laid out, I'm not gonna lie. I had to take out the intercooler. There's no other shot. I literally had to. This bracket sucked. It's in the worst place possible. I've had to take out literally everything that's existing for cooling.
Listen, although the term for this bracket is called the radiator support bracket, it actually has the main purpose of just holding up the intercooler. Which I know that seems kind of stupid, but yeah, there was no shortcut. You had to take out everything.
Wow. Yeah, I would have never been able to do that without the intercooler out. I have slightly bad news. If anybody knows about like N55 or just BMW in general, there's always going to be some sort of oil buyback or bypass. I don't know the correct term for it. Long story short is that if you find oil in the air intake, it's as long as it's a little bit, it's completely normal. The problem that I've encountered is actually the exact opposite, which I'm off camera. I need to check the charge pipe. I'll give you an update, but something I want to show you because the intercooler's off. This is the entire reason why I'm a little scared, because, here, let me just carry this guy with the camera into light, because this is no bueno. It's not as bad as it could be, but obviously you want as little as possible, and I'm glad there's freaking oil everywhere. I don't know how well you're seeing this, but that is a little bit of an oil pull up.
And a little bit is actually quite understatement, because this literally went from one side to the other, basically meaning where the air goes in and out of the intercooler.
So I guess the best way to do this is to just see my honest reaction to whether or not there is indeed oil in the charge pipe or not. There seems to not be. Now a lot of you in the comments are probably going to end up really looking at me with this clip here, okay? I'm pretty sure this is how the N55 engine works. If oil was indeed coming through that charge pipe, there would be a really bad scenario. I'm pretty sure the way this works is that it gets sucked in through the air intake, gets into the inlet of the turbo to get compressed, to then go through the intercooler, to then get cooled down even more, to then get charged up into the charge pipe, and then into the throttle body to the intake manifold, to then go into the cylinders and make the compression, and then it goes right back out to the turbo exhaust part and out. Alright, let's go ahead and open this.
And at first glance, the new radiator didn't actually look like it'd give me a lot of trouble, but this is foreshadowing a very hefty job.
This is you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. Yeah, this is a chunky boy. So I honestly think my only fear right now is making sure that these are all lined up correctly, but I'm pretty sure that this is exactly how they should go, because there's only really one way they can go. I guess if that makes any sense, is that basically the hoses are shaped in an only logical and ethical order to be put onto the nozzles. So if you're like me and don't remember, I think that's pretty explanatory of like how it should be.
So take a good look of this radiator, because this is a beautiful piece of performance parts for the N55. It prevents a lot of heat soak, especially when running the engine extremely heavy and hard. Now the bad part is these fins that actually keep the coolant cool tend to be rather fragile, so this is going to end up being a very difficult job. Now if you have an M Sport, understand there's going to be so many different oil thermostats for absolutely zero reason. No, your oil does not get that hot, and if it does, there's definitely things that you can buy and upgrade to make sure that you don't have all this congestion inside the engine bay, which basically is an upgraded oil cooler that's on the side of the car. But long story short, I had to bungee cord one of the oil coolers that actually attaches to the fan shroud and pull it back, and then finally, with a lot of shoving and a lot of broken fins that I'm about to show you, I got the radiator in.
Let that be known that was not easy by any means. I did end up ruining some of the fins down here. You can see like the entire trail. But like this thing, I mean, it's not that it's like massively bigger, even though it kind of is. It's just, I have an M Sport that's all-wheel drive. So I'm dealing with those different aspects to everything. So it's not like it's just the things that you're seeing from like Keys Motorsports or anything. But now that it's in, let's get it all hooked up. So I'll save that boring part for myself.
So it was time to hook up all the coolant lines again. Now this, what I'm pointing to, is actually the coolant thermostat. So if this goes out, guess what happens? I had to take all of this back out, which I will actually, believe it or not, describe in another video coming out very soon. But long story short, look at the gapping between the radiator and the turbo inlet. Now question to yourself, how the hell do you think a fan shroud is going to fit in between them?
I really hate to say this, but this is a lot harder to put back together than what it ever seems to be. This is all reality. There's no shop doing it. Things I'm running into, okay? One is the inlet. Another thing is actually this oil line that is right here. The fan's hitting it and this thing is not budging whatsoever. So theoretically, if I wanted to, I guess I could detach this. I'd have to drain some oil and then I'd somewhat be okay, but this is proving to be a lot harder than it ever seemed to be.
And then after waiting a whole 3 days to cool off, no pun intended, the unthinkable happened.
So firstly, these screws that are supposed to basically hold the radiator onto the piece of plastic here, both snapped off, okay? I didn't even torque them that well. They just both literally snapped. So there's nothing holding the radiator onto the plastic piece now. Another thing is, look how slanted that looks. I'm pretty confident it wasn't slanted like that beforehand. This, as you can see, I can move it this way, but now that you guys see it this way, look at how much space is actually between the belt and the fan now. It's like an inch.
So this is no exaggeration. It is incredibly close to the pulley system. So essentially, if anything were to break within this space, a lot of things are going to get damaged. Now what you're about to see is this car absolutely struggle to stay alive when actually starting the car, and that is mainly because off camera I decided to put on Fowlers for the upstream and downstream O2 sensors. However, a BMW really doesn't like Fowlers, so I had to take them off. But just check this out first.
Alright, let's turn it on. I hope it works.
Hey, this is it. We'll turn on the car for a little bit. I know that the air has to escape from the coolant lines, so the actual coolant reservoir is open right now. I think that's pretty much how you can bleed it. Yeah, I mean, this is the first time it's been started in so long. We'll just turn on the ignition. First time the ignition's been on for a week, too. Top up coolant. Okay, well, yeah, it might not actually start.
Alright, so the car is flat now. I have a theory as to why the car was actually sputtering, and it's actually because I really have no gas. It's this full. So, given that, when it's at a tilt, I guarantee you it was literally sucking as hard as you could. Alright, anyways, it was struggling to suck up any fuel to deliver to the engine, so I think we should be okay now. 3, 2, 1.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't record it sputtering out, almost like a stall if it was like a manual car. So, you kind of have to take my word for it. But yes, off camera, I did put Fowlers on the O2 sensors that were brand new, and BMW does not like them whatsoever. So, I've taken one out, and at this current stage, I only have one on the downstream, which it basically is after the cat, and the car still is hit or miss with it.
Well, guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I could say this over and over again, there's still more stuff coming, so just be prepared, be on the lookout, stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.